Welcome. Thank you for joining us as we review the Russian Revolution. World War I demonstrated Russia's economic weakness. It lacked food, armaments or weapons, and infrastructure such as roads and canals and railroads. Although Russia's army was impressive by its sheer size, it turns out that it was poorly equipped, poorly trained, and poorly led. There are stories of Russian troops showing up to battles without weapons. They would have to wait for someone else to be injured or killed and pick up their weapon. The result of poor equipment, poor training, and poor leadership was enormous losses. Russia lost in killed and wounded more than any of her allies, although she fought for one less year than her allies. There are a number of factors that led to the Russian Revolution in 1917. First was the embarrassment of losing a war both on land and at sea to small island nation Japan. Secondly, there was a large peasantry that did not have land and had no access. They were incredibly poor and were in effect, in many ways, virtual slaves. Next, the incompetence of Tsar Nicholas II, who, although well-meaning, made bad decision after bad decision. And finally, losing battle after battle and suffering incredibly high casualties, all combined to be factors leading to the Russian Revolution. This all results in the Russian people losing faith both in their government as well as in the Tsar. Now, the Tsar apparently was a nice guy who didn't really want to be king and really wasn't equipped to be king. If it was up to him, he would just hang out at the house with his family. Russia starts experiencing strikes and demonstrations as the people are frustrated by the lack of food, the poor conduct of the war, and general economic misfortune. Nicholas's dubious achievements that led to the Russian Revolution included the embarrassment of losing a war to tiny island nation Japan. He gave the order to mobilize the army, which led to Germany declaring war, effectively starting World War I, and finally an incident known as Bloody Sunday. This picture is from a movie commemorating that day, and what happened was a group of Russian citizens came to demonstrate about the lack of food, and the government, rather than listening or just standing by, instead sends the army and they open fire, and you have the government killing its own people. In March 1917, under great pressure, Tsar Nicholas II abdicates. Abdicates means that you willingly give up the throne. Nicholas and his family are imprisoned, put under house arrest effectively, and a temporary government is created to try to sort things out. Two groups fight for control of the country. The Mensheviks, or the moderates, are led by Leon Trotsky, while the communists or Bolsheviks are the radicals, and they are led by Vladimir Lenin. In November 1917, the Bolsheviks win and overthrow the provisional government and rename themselves the Communist Party. At this point, Tsar Nicholas' mere existence is a threat, and the Tsar and his entire family are executed. As we mentioned in our review of World War I, the communist-led government is desperate to get out of World War I and signs a peace treaty with Germany, giving up substantial land. While Russia has gotten out of the war, it is only the beginning of a 4-year civil war between the Communist Party and those opposing the Communist Party, known as the White Army. The Allies are angry at Russia for leaving the war and try to support the White Army with money and arms and troops. In this picture, you see American soldiers landing in Vladivostok, Russia in 1919. The assistance from the Allies was insufficient, and in 1921 the Communists win the Civil War. In 1922, they renamed the country the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. In this map, you can see the 15 republics that made up the Soviet Union. The Russian Civil War had nearly ruined the Russian economy. And so in an attempt to revive it, Communist Party leader Vladimir Lenin introduces what he terms the new economic policy. It's not purely communism because it does have a component of private business, but it was designed to bring the economy back into a better condition. Upon Lenin's death, Joseph Stalin assumes leadership of the Soviet Union. He drops the new economic plan and instead opposes his own plan known as five-year economic planning. These are a series of plans that ended up nationalizing the country and bringing all industry and development under the state control. Joseph Stalin was worried that the Soviet Union was falling behind the rest of the industrialized world and needed to catch up. He wants to make the economy self-sufficient. As a result, his main goals focus on industry and infrastructure such as electric power and agriculture. Stalin changes Soviet agriculture by a process known as collectivization, in which all private farms were lumped together into large enterprises that were owned by the government and no longer were farmers working for themselves. Similarly, all factories were taken over by the government, and the government set what they would make and how much they would make of it. Thanks for joining us as we review the Russian Revolution. We'll see more of this guy, Joseph Stalin, as we approach World War II.